There's royalty in the room.
You have that food.
All right, we're live. Hey, we want to get going on this. There's a lot to cover, and your time's precious, so we want to get going. I am just super stoked. When we saw a lot of the new city council members coming in, and a lot of the new boards and commission members turnover, we thought we needed to do some really cool training, and I immediately thought of Anne. I've had the blessing of being a recipient in a couple of different environments of Anne's training, and find her to be just, and you will find tonight that she's just spectacular, and talking about meetings and how to do them orderly and different things. So super glad Anne is on her way out. So we were lucky to grab her we grabbed her coattail on the way out the door and pulled her back in for another one or two, and super excited. Let me give you some creds on Anne. Anne McFarland majored in Russian and ancient Greek at the University of California, Santa Cruz. She received a Marshall Scholarship awarded by the British government and earned a second degree at Cambridge University in England. She then joined the U.S. Foreign Service, serving as a diplomat in Pakistan and on the Soviet desk of the U.S. State Department. After marrying fellow Foreign Service officer Lou McFarland, Anne became a stay-at-home mom in the Congo, Tanzania, and Nepal. On returning to Seattle, Anne became a Russian translator and was elected president of the American Translators Association. Since developing Jurassic Parliament in 2000, she trains elected officials, staff, and nonprofit board members across the nation. Anne is a professional registered parliamentarian with Andrew Stepp, who she is the author of Mastering Council Meetings. Anne, you have the floor.
We can set it here, though, just in case. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Jurassic Parliament and Robert's Rules of Order is one of my favorite things in the entire world. But if you say to people, oh, let's spend a quiet Monday evening in December, you have nothing better to do with Robert's Rules of Order. You'll really enjoy it. It's about like saying you're going to enjoy your root canal procedures next week. So thank you for defying the odds and coming here this evening. So I'm going to ask all you participants to wear your name badge. It helps me out. And I have to advise you that I'm having a little trouble with my hearing. So if you speak up as we go through things, that will be great. So let me grab my clicker. Here we go. It's just coming up now, right? Oh, very good. Can you get the slideshow? Yeah, there we are. Great city council meetings. All right, so these are our topics. We've got a lot to cover, but we'll romp through it. And I do promise that we'll enjoy it. And I want to say, what is the reason? Why are we here? My goal tonight is to invigorate you to run effective city council, commission, and committee meetings. I know you already run great meetings, but we want to make them even better. And sometimes a fresh approach, new ideas can help. So after taking this training, these are the outcomes. You'll be able to describe how the authority of the group is more important than any single individual, even the chair, follow best practices for discussion, respond to disorder or difficult people, make motions and amendments. Very good, that's all right. Run effective public comment sessions and make better decisions for your community. And I welcome all the community members who are here as well. It's great to have you. Let's see. Is it advancing? Doesn't seem to be. Oops, too far. Okay, so the material in this presentation is based on parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rules of Order. I'm not an attorney, and nothing in this presentation constitutes legal advice. So if you hear something different, then listen to your attorney. They're the one that you need to observe. So we're going to be in the League of Northwest Dino Cities, and you have a map on your table that shows you this league. My late husband and I had a lot of fun creating the 70 different cities, each of which has its own project. So it's not entirely realistic, but there's some overlap with real life. And you are going to be the members of the Dinopolis City Council. So you can see Dinopolis down there on the bay. And if any of you fall in love with this map, you're perfectly free to take it away. So it's the City of Dinopolis regular council meeting. You are the members. And our motto is, we do our best for all our residents, whether we like them or not. So could I hear the motto, please? Ready, everybody? We do our best for all our residents, whether we like them or not. Now, could we have a little enthusiasm, please? Come on, let's try it again. We do our best for all our residents, whether we like them or not. Exactly. So when it's time to run a meeting, you take up your seat in the, oops, sorry, got to get used to this. Back to order. Seems to be a little lag. Okay. So at the right time, not earlier, you sit in the chair reserved for the person running the meeting. And chair refers both to the physical object on which you sit and to you as the chair. This comes from medieval times when only princes or potentates had a chair. Everybody else had to stand or sit on the floor. So you take up the gavel, if you have one, and you announce this meeting of the Dinopolis City Council or Planning Commission or Salary Commission or whatever is called to order. You ask the clerk to take the roll, and you announce that a quorum is present. Now, Robert's Rules doesn't say that you have to announce that a quorum is present, but we think it's a good idea. So a quorum, oh, and notice that we have citations for our book here. Our book, Mastering Council Meetings, which I know some of you have. In fact, I'll pass it around for you to take a look at it. Here we go. So if you have this book and you want to match it up with what I'm saying, you'll find the page references here in the slides. Mastering Council Meetings, okay. So the quorum is the minimum number of voting members who must be present for business to be done. And for a local government body, it's usually a majority of the fixed positions. So I want to make a little terminology distinction here. Fixed positions are the number of positions established by law or by your bylaws. So what are the number of fixed positions for the Lake Stevens City Council? Yes. So what is the quorum going to be? What's a majority of 7? It's 4. Some nonprofit bodies have a different rule. They want a majority of the people who are actually in office, which confusingly is called the complete council or the complete board. But in your case, it's very likely to be fixed positions. Quorum is different from votes cast. Quorum is a passive condition that allows you to take action, and the votes cast are the action that you actually take. So if you don't have a quorum, you can't do business. And for a local government body, business includes listening and talking. So if you don't have a quorum, don't go and say, oh, well, let's just hear the staff reports anyway. You'll have to adjourn to a future meeting. So the agenda, in your case, is prepared by the city clerk and prepared by the mayor and the city administrator. So I wasn't clear from your rules of procedure whether the council is allowed to change an agenda once the meeting starts.
Under approval of the agenda, they can.
They can. Okay, very good. Now, it's very important, and I'm sure you all know this, that you read the agenda packet in advance. I know it can be sometimes lots and lots of pages, but that's part of your due diligence and it's part of your duty as an elected member. And we recommend, if you have questions, send them to the staff in advance. In some cities, they play gotcha with the staff, and that's not a good idea. So it's good if you have something you want more information on to request it ahead of time. Now, according to Robert's rules, the purpose of minutes is to create a record of the actions taken by the body. So minutes record what is done and not what is said. And your minutes, I'm happy to say, are very, very good. They follow that guideline. So we recommend action or summary minutes, not detailed minutes.
Because I learned from you, Ann.
What's that?
I learned from you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Now, for certain topics, such as conflict of interest, yes, you should include the main points, but otherwise, no, you know. I still keep in touch with the American Translators Association, with whom I served as president. And the new president just wrote to me and said, Ann, what arguments can I use to persuade our secretary not to write down what everybody is saying? And I said, you don't need to persuade her. You just tell her. That's not our custom, you know, because it's a matter of the body's right itself, what kind of minutes you're going to have. So our next topic is meeting discussion, point of order, and appeal. And we're going to jump right in with a script reading. So in the back of your handout, you have a script about holding a pickle festival in Dinopolis. It's way in the back. Everybody found it? So in order to do this, we're going to break into groups of 6. So I'm going to invite you two to turn your chairs, and you can turn your mics off for this, and you two to pull your chairs over here and form one group of 6. And then we'll form one here. We'll take, you two can turn your chairs. You can pull your chair over if you would, Bruce. And then here we'll form another group of 6. So I think, let's see.
You tell me.
Okay, so you two can both go over there. Take your chairs. Let's see. So I'm going to ask the 2 clerks to come on up.
Want me over here?
Are you, yes, that sounds good. If we've got 6, do we have 6 over here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, you join them. Hi, welcome.
Hello.
And you come on over and join here. So just, so you see the script, and the point of the script is that you want to watch for rules for discussion. So we need you two up here if you can bring chairs. You want to watch for inappropriate remarks. You want to watch for point of order and appeal, which are less commonly known motions, and for the chair being out of line. Watch for the chair being out of line. Now, in normal life, you have to be recognized by the chair before you speak. But in this exercise, it's just a straight reading exercise. And you're just going to read the remarks according to the numbers that are written down there. No recognition is necessary. That's just to speed it up. So among yourselves, please, each person choose a role. Now, this is straight reading. No acting or improvisation is required. Although, if you want to put a little body English on your lines, that's perfectly fine. Okay? So go for it.
So, and then he wants to. Oh, thanks. Ryan, do you want to be the sheriff? The
Oh, wow.
The main motion has been moved give you the sheriff, the sheriff, and stuff, right? So our person who makes sure, just give it back to you, to your motion. North Carolina. That's 22 years. Any further discussion?
Yeah, target everybody's.
I'd like to give this a try. And adding the next summer. So here's it seems like a good idea, but we possibly could plan it for one of these. That's certainly very much in favor of it. That's a good any further discussion. However, hearing now, case covered is good for those amend the motion to describe words of this number and inserting words for next. If this amendment passes, motion will read that we hold a regular discussion next summer. All those in favor of amending the motion to describe this number and inserting words next summer, say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, motion passes. Motion is amended to agree that we hold a single festival next summer. Further discussion on the main motion as amended.
By having the words and your second.
Kind of big, like, taking a slogan, then I
Insert last action.
the chair can hear the amendment. The member is spoken either.
Yes, I said, and you just spoke about.
The last word is spelled. So I think that's. We amend the motion by adding and use the slogan. Is kind of a big discussion.
The clever pun. It seems to me that it would make sense to wait to decide whether we're having a festival at all, and then the marketing experts decide about the details.
I agree with the chamber of commerce president on this, so we should just move on. Main motions amended is that we hold a film festival next summer.
Oh, so now you're telling me all our
You're going to make snarky comments, you should definitely.
Point of order, Chair.
If you're gonna make start your.
Point of order.
The point is well taken. The chair apologizes. Is there any objection? We wait on marketing until the implementation. Hearing none, we will move on. From a bigger festival than this year's, and should have to words and yarn afterward. Is there a second? There being no second, motion to amend will not be. That's fair. I just as curious because yarn was under the office rules board. The motion has been seconded. Since no one seconded, it means that only one person wants to discuss this idea. Roger Festival yarn is not something we want to discuss.
Points of information. Point of information. Not just me. There's one thing about her.
Chef share. Ice cream and snow cones.
Well, one thing
So try need to also clarify. Now,
Point of order here. According to Robert's rules, these council members are talking to each other, also it seems to be like when we're saying their personal preferences are not. Point of order, should discuss the merits of the motion.
according to Robert's rules, the point is we're saying on which we're going to have 31 received once before any twice. And we should be talking about all of them, whether it's a good idea, not the personal beliefs. Is there further discussion on the main motion? Under Robert's Rules of Order, refers to a specific person. Members are free to propose actions that benefit their higher. There are many steps.
I think the sheriff should say that this is a very engagement last show.
Saying that because the chef broke off their engagement.
Under Robert's rules.
The point is well taken, as Robert's rules says, to speak to issues not personnel. I'm not saying that motion by using the word an amendment was proposed earlier to add yard to the festival, not second, therefore was not taken. The chair will forbid that a knitting festival, especially the same as a yarn knitting festival, is already defined to address such a proposal. This amendment is not in order and will not be taken.
I wish people went to all around us.
The members was reminded that insulting remarks are not allowed. Finally show respect for and tell them ask all the time.
I called the question.
Second, the question has been called, and no, if this motion passes, it means that we will stop debate immediately and vote on the question before us, namely, the old people festival next summer. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you, hands down. All those opposed, raise your right hand. Thank you, hands down. There are 4 in favor, 1 against, which is 2/3. So we will vote immediately on the main motion.
Chair, I have a question about Brian's procedure. Why did you take that vote by asking us to raise our hands instead of asking? It seems like a waste of time to vote on that.
Robert's Rules of Order said that 2/3 vote must be taken, and rights are limited or extended. And it's hard to tell 2/3 by voice, so the vote must be taken another way.
Thank you for that explanation, Chair.
Hold on, I don't understand. So states that 2/3 vote must be taken when members' rights are limited or extended. What does that mean? It's hard to tell 2/3 by violation.
It's weird group, and 2/3 votes. So she's doing it visually.
Or we do, I only have roll call, but yeah, that's equivalent to raise the objection. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you also for the take recess right now. You're just.
You need to,
Oh, Chair, I need to take recess for 10 minutes.
the motion is allowed on both motion. Is there any objection to recess?
Objection.
Very well, we don't have you. Recess.
So, pauses are always, during this. Especially for
You've done for these unfortunately, I think we've been.
We're just talking about this, we're talking about that recess for 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Most of the time, the mayor would say, you know what, we're all gonna take a 10-minute break instead of a motion, so that's what you're just asking.
Okay.
But it can't be a motion.
I need to say that we shouldn't take a recess.
So very well, we don't have unanimous consent, so recess is finished, so we will take a vote.
Just a minute, I need to explain why we shouldn't take on this.
Sorry, the motion to recess is not moved. All those in favor of recess, say aye. All those opposed say no. I always ask you to abstain. There's a majority, the motion passes.
Chair, I feel like all these rules are tying us up in knots, they're making our meetings way too long. You're just gonna dictate.
The chair will rule that the words dictator with a gap are children. Yes, 10 minutes. Okay.
During the recess, there's resources, and I should share it with you all.
Unfortunately, my sort of fault for you. All those in favor of holding general festival next summer, say aye. Those opposed say no. Ayes have it. Next summer. The member is reminded of every vote taken and the result is no party exceptions allowed. There being no vote, this meeting is adjourned.
That was fun.
Oh my gosh.
This one here. Was it short? I got it.
We've never been in a situation where we call, we have had discussion where we have, say you.
Thanks for taking part. Let's come back to our places. So a meeting like that should never happen in the city of Lake Stevens, and I'm sure that it never does. But just in case, let's look at a few ideas. There is a principle in Robert's Rules, easy to say, not always so easy to apply. All members have equal rights, privileges, and obligations. Could I hear it? All members have equal rights, privileges, and obligations. And what this means in practice is that discussion in council and committee meetings is not a conversation. It's not a conversation, it's debate, and it has its own rules. And so we come to the first of our fundamental guidelines. No one may speak a second time until everyone who wishes to do so has spoken once. This is so important, I'm going to give it to you in red, and may I hear it, please? No one may speak a second time until everyone who wishes to do so has spoken once. This is critical. This is a transformative guideline and will make a huge difference to your meetings, and perhaps you already follow it. But oftentimes we don't do it. Councils and committees tend to discuss their affairs in conversational mode. And in conversations, dominant people tend to dominate and agreeable people tend to let them. So you must have a structure to ensure that everyone has an equal chance to speak. And this is both fair and efficient. And it's also the best way to ensure that each person has an equal voice. Robert's Rules of Order gets a bad rap, 19th century, out of date, patriarchal. But in fact, the formality of it creates a level playing field where everyone's voice can be heard, and it will do a lot to advance your equity and inclusion goals. Now, this guideline pertains to discussion on the substantive issues. The chair, the mayor, the president, the chair, will speak more than others because they need to maintain the routine procedural items. We're talking here about discussing the merits of a motion. Now, if it doesn't happen and your meeting deteriorates into a hockey match, the chair should intervene and stop it. But if the chair fails to take action, a member can raise a point of order. And point of order is another 19th century thing that, again, sounds out of date, but in fact is very, very relevant. We represent point of order by a flying dinosaur. Here's the main motion: hold a pickle festival. And then somebody makes an insulting remark, that's just a bunch of malarkey or whatever. So that's a point of order, and it flies over the head of the dinosaur, and the chair bats it out of the sky. The chair takes action. So when another member breaks one of the rules, a member may make a point of order, and the chair issues a ruling on the point. It's a motion claiming that a procedural mistake has been made. According to Robert's rules, it can only be made by a member of the body. We recommend that key staff, if they know parliamentary procedure, be authorized also. But the public may not raise a point of order. If you have somebody standing up in your audience and shouting, "Point of order," they are completely out of order. So here's a little example. Oops, looks like we didn't get the audio. Well, never mind, it's just the same thing. Point of order. Yeah, we're going to try. There is a share sound setting on Zoom. Anyway, let's just keep going. So the member says point of order. The chair says state your point. Then the member explains what it is. And then the chair issues a ruling. Come on, advance, advance. So that's all it is. It's very, very simple there. Now, a few things for you all to know. You can make a point of order at any time, except during voting. You do not have to be recognized, and you actually may interrupt a speaker. Now, don't do that often, or you'll become very unpopular. But if you have a situation where somebody is, ranting and raving from the podium or from the dais, you can say point of order. That remark is not allowed under our rules of order. But the key thing that you need to keep in mind is you have to make it at the time. This is a fundamental principle in Robert's rules. If you wait an hour or a day, it will be too late. You can't come back a couple of hours later and say, "Hey, I thought that Anne was being pretty insulting when she said malarkey." Too late. You got to do it at the time. So the chair must issue a ruling. How many of you are chairs of your bodies? And the mayor, of course, yeah. So you have to say whether you think it's correct or not. And sometimes people are uncomfortable with that. They say, "Well, it's so subjective." Well, yes, it is, but you have to use your judgment. And then the ruling goes into the minutes as a precedent for the future. You don't have to say who made the point of order or who offended. You can just say, "A point of order was made that the word malarkey is insulting, and the point was ruled well taken." That means that in your council, nobody could say malarkey unless and until it gets overturned later. Now, so this means, as I say, the chair will have to exercise personal judgment, or you can turn to the body to decide, and we'll have an example of that later. When should members make, yes, please, Angie.
Question about the chair making the decision. Yes, thank you. Does there have to be a rule in the bylaws already addressing that issue? Like it says it's not, the example says it breaks our rules of decorum. Do you have to have rules of decorum in your bylaws?
Well, Robert's rules has them.
Oh, so it doesn't have to be in your own?
No,
It can be.
not at all.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
So make a point of order if a rule has been broken. Do not make a point of order to bring something to the chair's attention, or because you think someone has made a factual mistake, or because you disagree with what they said. You can do that later when it's your turn to discuss. So this is obviously a very powerful tool, and it's very good for the chair to use the third person to keep things neutral and lessen conflict. I was at a council meeting once where the mayor said, "John, I think you're off topic." That is a big mistake. That sets up a personal fight between the mayor and the council member. So you want to use that third person and say members will not make irrelevant comments, or members will keep their comments to the topic under discussion. And the chair doesn't have to say point of order, because the chair already has the duty under Robert's rules of maintaining order and decorum. So the chair just needs to take appropriate action. And by the way, we're going to practice making motions later, so you can practice making a point of order at that time. Notice also, as you saw in the little script, the chair is subject to the same rules. And if the chair breaks the rules and somebody makes a point of order, the chair issues a ruling on their own behavior, which seems totally weird, but that's the way the system works. So once the chair has ruled on a point of order, the only allowable form of discussion is to appeal the ruling. Appeal, in our view, is the most important motion in all of Robert's rules and the least known. People absolutely do not know about it. So the chair enforces order and decorum. The group is the final authority. Under your rules, any member can appeal a ruling of the chair. Now, there is an exception. If the ruling is a matter on which there cannot be two reasonable interpretations, you can't appeal it. But you have an unusual rule here in Lake Stevens, which I've never seen before. Your rules state that if an appeal is made, the attorney will decide the outcome. Now, do you have the attorney at all your meetings? Okay, well, that simplifies matters, certainly, provided the attorney is familiar with Robert's Rules of Order. So the standard procedure in Robert's Rules is that the group decides. Point of order and appeal are processed immediately. No other business can take place until they're dealt with, and they do not count against a member's turn to speak in debate. You know, if we're arguing a given issue back and forth, these don't count. Yes?
Who gets to decide if there cannot be two reasonable interpretations?
Well, it would be the chair, and then it may be the attorney. But usually you hope and expect that it's going to be something pretty obvious. If the bylaws say the president can serve only 1 year and somebody nominates the president for a second year, anybody who can read can see that that's not allowed. Great question, though. So as I was saying, don't get into arguments. You shouldn't have arguments at your council meetings or at your commission meetings. You can have spirited discussion, but you shouldn't have back and forth arguing. The chair should not argue. The chair should just state their ruling, and a member should not argue. A member can appeal if they want to. So we believe that point of order and appeal are the heart of democracy. They are absolutely the key way that we enforce the situation where the group is the final authority. Now let's look at how to do this. And I'm going to invite you participants to turn on your mics so that if you have a question, we'll be able to be sure to hear it. Here are 6 or 5 things that we're going to go through, our suggestions for this. First, seek recognition. Members must seek recognition before speaking. Oh, this is so important, you know. You just cannot have people bursting out. You raise your hand and you wait to speak until the chair has called your name or given you some other indication that you have the floor. And if it's an online meeting, you can use the raise hand function in Zoom or raise your physical hand. And for Zoom on the telephone, you can press *9. When you have not been recognized, you have a duty to remain silent, which is kind of a shock to some people. The exception is a point of order when it's essential. This is a paper called Rights and Responsibilities of the Member. It's a wonderful paper that a colleague of mine wrote, and I'll be sending it to you after our session in a big packet of reference materials. And you're perfectly free to extract these materials from this packet and share them with others if you wish. So we had our guideline, no one may speak a second time. How are you going to manage that? Well, what it means is no crosstalk between members. At a meeting, we're not going to have members speaking directly to each other. Instead, people are going to address the chair, speak to the chair. So that's a heavy responsibility on the mayor or the chair. The chair can keep track of who has spoken and who wishes to speak using a chart. The chair can empower the vice chair to do this. It's good training for them. Here's a sample of a speaking chart, and you're perfectly free to adapt it if you like. When I run our choir board meetings, I have it on a clipboard, and I just click off everybody who's spoken. And then I know who has spoken and who has not yet had a chance. Another great method is the round robin, where you go around the table asking each person in turn to speak. And people can pass and speak at the end if they like. Now, if you do that, you want to have a pencil in hand because some point may come up and you want to remember it for when your own turn comes. And the chair has to wait their turn also. Sometimes groups take up the round robin and then the chair answers everybody back, which is patently unfair. You can also vary the order. And we like this for questions and answers. I don't know if this ever happens at your meetings, but sometimes a member of the body and a staff member will go back and forth and kind of hijack the meeting for 15 minutes. And that shouldn't be happening. You give up people a couple questions and then you move on to the next person. When a member has the floor, they have the right to speak until they've completed their comments. Members may not interrupt each other. The chair may interrupt members when it's necessary to bring them to order, and members may interrupt to make a point of order when it's essential. No sidebar conversations, no texting to people in the meeting or people outside the meeting. And of course, you know, if you're doing that, those are public records that have to be maintained, so it's better not to do them at all. We recommend disabling the chat or using it for admin only. And no posting on social media during meetings. A few years ago, the city of Burien had a council member who all through the meeting was posting distorted descriptions of what her colleagues were saying on her social media page. So they had to quickly pass a rule to try to get out of that. It was awful. Yes. Can you speak into your mic here?
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to mesh the comment of everybody gets a turn versus when a member has the floor, they have the right to speak until they've completed their comments.
Right.
Those two things are in conflict in my mind.
Why?
Well, if I have 10 comments, do I make all 10 of my comments? But we also said you only speak once until everyone has a chance to speak.
Well, you have a chance to speak.
Sure.
You can say as many different things as you like.
Okay.
But some cities also establish a time limit for speeches, that it would be 5 minutes maximum or 3 minutes maximum. But if you have 10 comments, you can give them one after the other as long as the time allows.
Okay.
Okay, good. So, you know, structuring discussion in these ways can be frustrating. And council members sometimes say, oh, I wish we could just hash it out and have a free-form discussion. Well, usually that's not going to work very well, but there is sometimes benefit in what is called in Robert's Rules informal discussion. It's the conversational style where you don't have to be recognized and you can just speak up, but the chair must still ensure that no one dominates. So the chair could say, if there's no objection, we'll take 10 minutes and discuss this in the conversational style, or a member could request it. But I just beg of you, please, don't make that your ordinary form of discussion. So courtesy, I love this quote I found the other day. Courtesy flows from the conviction that for society to function well, we need to protect one another. Specifically, we need to protect other people from our limitations and self-centeredness, and we need to be protected from theirs. Courtesy flows from the awareness of how thin our skin is, how easily our best intentions go awry, and how raw our nerve endings tend to be. I thought that was quite remarkable and a good preface to our discussion about this fundamental guideline. Courtesy and respect towards everyone are required. These are absolutely essential. And there are 5 kinds of remarks that are inappropriate, 5 kinds of remarks that may not be made at meetings run according to Robert's Rules of Order. So I'm actually going to ask you to read them. Sabine, could you turn on your mic there and read us the first one? We have it on the screen, or you can have it in your handout.
What exactly?
So you can see the first one there. These remarks are inappropriate.
Personal remarks about other members. It's
Yes.
Conflict of interest.
Yes. Now, I'm sure you have conflict of interest rules. And Mike, can you give us the next one?
Discourteous remarks, insulting language, attacks.
The next one?
Inflammatory language.
Language that gets people's blood pressure up. The next one?
Criticizing past actions of the group unless subject is under discussion or member is about to propose to amend or rescind the action at the end of their speech.
So for example, you can say, building that skateboard park was the worst thing our city ever did, and I move we tear it down. But you can't say, building that skateboard park was the worst thing our city ever did. You can't just make random criticisms of past actions. And then the last one?
Remarks that are germane to the discussion.
Yes, germane is just a jargon word. It means relevant. And that's kind of the umbrella that covers all these things. So it's a fundamental rule that we're going to emphasize more than once, that when you're, bless you, when you're discussing a motion, your comments have to pertain to whether we should adopt this motion or not. They have to be specifically aimed at the motion itself. And all of these things are irrelevant. They're not appropriate. So again, I'll send you a paper, Inappropriate Remarks on Local Government Councils. And this guy is making an inappropriate remark. He is saying, that's a flat, outright lie. And Robert says, the measure, not the member, measure means the thing we're discussing, is the subject of debate. The moment the chair hears such words as fraud, liar, or lie used about a member in debate, he must act immediately and decisively to correct the matter and prevent its repetition. So this certainly might be an instance where you would use your gavel, and say firmly, those remarks are absolutely not allowed at our meetings.
Ms. McFarland,
Yes,
if I may over here.
can I hear you?
I have never had an issue in a planning commission meeting where that has been an issue, but I've had public that have made comments such as we are liars or that we are somehow in conflict with what we're voting on. How do you handle public comment versus how we handle ourselves as a board?
That is a brilliant question, and we're going to come to it in just a moment.
I can't wait.
Thank you. Thank you. So what about the deer in the headlights problem? There's that situation where you hear something and it's off, but what do you say about it? How do you respond to it? So we have a tool. I'm going to pass it around for you to take a look at. It's called the Wait cheat sheet. Now, please don't take a photocopy of this, a picture. I had a meeting last week and people were busily pulling out their cameras. This is proprietary information, but we sell this on our website. But it is a cheat sheet, and down the left-hand side, there are inappropriate remarks and things that should not be happening. And then there are 3 columns. One column is what the chair can say when this happens. One column is what a member can say when another member is breaking the rules. And one column is what a member can say when the chair is breaking the rules. It's the only source I know for this information. And on the back, it's got information about motions. So the former mayor of one of our cities told me, he said, Ann, when those orange placemats came out, I knew that I had to straighten up and fly right because his council had been well trained. And when he said something that was not appropriate or that was breaking one of the rules, they would pull this out. So you're welcome to take a look at it. So who decides? If any question arises whether a remark is appropriate or not, or a comment is germane, the chair rules subject to appeal. Or the chair may also turn immediately to the group to decide. Ultimately, it's the group's call. Now, these are rules for council members when meeting. They do not apply to the public. They do not apply to the public. If the public says you all are liars, there's very little that you can say and nothing that you can do. And we will cover public comment towards the end of this session. So now, are there any questions on this portion? Yes.
For the who decides.
Can you get the mic there?
For the who decides portion,
Yes.
is it always the group's call, or is that only if the chair asks them? Because if it's subject to an appeal in our city, wouldn't that go to the attorney?
Right.
Okay.
Right. But I'd like you to have this tool so that the chair can know if he wants to, that he can ask the group to decide straight off the bat. So what we're going to do now is I invite you to pair up at your tables, and we'll just take 3 or 4 minutes to think about these suggestions that I've been giving of how to do this. And what I would suggest is that you speak to your colleague and share 2 items that you have found valuable from this presentation so far. Share 2 items that you have found valuable. I hope you found at least 2 valuable from this presentation so far. So this will just be 3 or 4 minutes.
Right of appeal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk to council, don't talk to the one person in the room, right? Knowing there's a camera, or do I talk to the baby in line? Like, do I talk to the person behind me addressing something? Hey, like, I never knew who I was talking to, but it's my friends. And then there were times I just looked straight forward and was talking to them. He said, no, I was supposed to actually talk to you. Sort of like free. Break
President is chair, right?
Well,
So
you know,
if Brett's not there.
If Brett's not there yet, so if Brett's not there, then the president's the chair. The Brett and the president are the vice president. So it kind of goes to Brett. Brett's there, Brett's the councilman. Yeah. The other thing that I read is we don't necessarily go where you know what I mean? And the one thing I think everyone else understood was as you go through, if you have a second, like all the time, someone will say something that was true. Maybe to me, that's what I love about the left. You know, it's like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. So then I spoke and speak again. But we don't always follow that. So that's good to know. And no one's ever doing this too. And so that's good to know that there has been many times when Brett has called out positive representations. So he's pretty good about denying him without actual stating. So those are a couple of things that I got out of it that, you know, I kind of noticed some mistakes, or maybe that I was bringing up first.
Conversation item. I can't pick just 2 things. I think.
Oh, I know.
It's great. I think you guys often know. Sounds like it's it. It's interesting. I don't think. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen it and I don't make any. I can think of irrelevance stuff.
No, I really.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Ever been in a meeting?
Yeah.
Like that. There have been a couple of times that personally, right? But never a time when you were calling me or something like that. Not, I don't think of anything like that. Pretty respectful council and you know, I know there were times when some of our previous councils I get really frustrated with all the questions I had. But it's just really, really important for me to understand what people know and to not just.
I was so frustrated with they were.
And I recognize you've been on the council for a very long time.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, a lot of people say it takes about 2 years to. Well, it probably took me about a year. Don't even leadership. All these steps to.
So now we're going to take a look at motions and amendments. This is where the dinosaurs come into full play. And I want you all to listen up because after that, we'll take a quick break and then we're going to practice. We're going to practice making motions. So a main motion is a formal proposal by a member in a meeting that the assembly takes certain action. That's the definition. And we use Tyrannosaurus Rex to stand for a main motion. Your rules require that discussion of the motion occur only after the motion has been moved and seconded. So that's a great thing from a Roberts point of view. There is the T-Rex. We recommend this sequence. The staff presents the proposal in writing and answers any questions. Each council member may ask 1 or 2 questions and the next member has a turn. The motion is moved and seconded. The members discuss the motion and may amend it. That's when amendments come in. And then the members vote on the motion. Now, a main motion should be in writing if at all possible. And it should be clear and unambiguous. Don't say, I move what he just said, or so moved, or as I heard in one egregious circumstance, let's do it. And the member felt that that was a motion. So it must be phrased in the grammatical positive. Don't make a motion not to adopt an ordinance. Make the motion to adopt the ordinance, and then if you don't want it, vote it down. It must comply with the bylaws and the procedural law of the land, and you can only have one main motion at a time. So if we're discussing the motion to hold a pickle festival, and somebody else says, I move that we take a survey of all our residents to find out what kind of festival they would like, that motion is out of order, and it has to go away and wait until we've disposed of the one that we're handling. This is another fundamental guideline here, one thing at a time. Robert was a military man, and you can certainly see it in his rules. So how do you introduce a main motion? It's just, I move that. Could I hear it?
I move that.
Now, don't say, I would like to motion that, or I think we ought to, or I suggest. Just say, I move that, and then state clearly and concisely what it is you would like the body to do. So when can you make a new motion? If the agenda contains a draft motion, you can move it. You can make a motion spontaneously when a subject is being discussed, if it's germane, but don't make motions during council comment or public comment. This is the reason. This is a good excerpt from the city of SeaTac. The council desires to provide adequate time for administration and staff analysis, fact-finding, and preparation. Except in extraordinary or unusual circumstances, all items that are not routine in nature shall be, when presented, include a completed council agenda bill. So that's a very good rule to be following. The member must be clear. The member has the responsibility of formulating the motion. So sometimes we hear something like this. I've been noticing that the number of wild cats is increasing in our city, and they're getting stomped on by bigger dinosaurs. It's important that the city do something to protect them. So I think allowing catios would be great. This will make the little kitties safer. This is the way to drive Kelly and Caitlin crazy. You don't do that. You say very precisely, I move that residents be authorized to build catios in their private yards. And you can request a moment to write it down, or the chair can request that it be written down. Then somebody seconds the motion. So what is about seconding? You second a motion to show that you would like to talk about it. It used to mean that you approved of it, but it doesn't mean that anymore. It just means that you want to talk about it. And you don't need to be recognized. Another case where you don't need to be recognized. You could just call out second, and it's okay to second a motion you disagree with if you want to explain why it's a bad idea. If there's no second, the chair says, there being no second, the motion will not be taken up, and then moves immediately to the next item of business. Now, you can't speak against your own motion. Under Robert's rules, the maker of the motion cannot speak against it. So if the discussion has changed their mind, they should withdraw the motion. Under Robert, you have to have permission to withdraw a motion, but your rules allow the maker of a motion to withdraw it at any time, which I think is not a good rule. If you are ever looking at redoing it, you might think about changing that. I'm taking my marbles and I'm going home. That's not the right attitude. The maker can vote against their own motion. Now, if you're out driving and you come up to an intersection, you don't have to stop and think, should I step on the brakes or step on the gas? Because you've internalized the system of traffic management. So similarly, I invite you to internalize the 8 steps to process a motion. And in your handout, you have a worksheet there. Next page. You can take a pen, if you wish, and fill in these as we go through them, because it's a very good way to learn something, is to have it go from your hand up through your arm into your brain. So these are the 8 steps. First, the member makes the motion. Then another member seconds the motion. Then the chair states the motion. Then the members debate and/or amend the motion. That's when amendments can come in. The chair restates the motion and calls for the vote. The members vote on the motion. The chair states the results of the vote, whether the motion passes or fails, and what happens next as a result of the vote. And then the chair states the next item of business. So how many times do the members hear the motion? Three. They hear it 3 times. When the member makes it initially, when the chair states it before discussion, and when the chair states it after discussion. So there you've got that worksheet. Step 3 is very important. The presider must repeat the motion or have the clerk repeat it. Why? Because everyone wants to know what we're actually discussing. The text of the motion, as stated by the chair, is the official text. And after step 3, the motion belongs to the group as a whole and not to the person who made it. Now, if it's a whacking long ordinance, the chair can just say, we have ordinance number 5763 pertaining to parking spaces or whatever. You don't have to read words and words and words. But sometimes people get careless about this. The chair has the duty of repeating the exact words of the motion made by the council member. Sometimes chairs kind of put a little spin on the motion, they improve it. So if the chair has done that, you can speak up and say, that's not what I said. Step 5 is also very important. The chair or the clerk must repeat the motion before the vote is taken so that everyone knows what we're actually voting on. I actually was once at a meeting where somebody said, what did we just approve? And nobody knew. So that's not good. It's not good for your organization. So here's our main motion, Tyrannosaurus Rex. I move that residents be authorized to build catios in their private yards. So the general contractor, the person who makes the motion, can speak first. So the general contractor says, I feel that catios will allow our dear feline friends to experience the outdoors without getting hurt or endangering other wildlife. Here's an example of a sweet little catio. I urge my colleagues to vote in favor of this motion. Then the photographer says, I'm in favor. My cousin has built a catio and her little pet Fuzzy is completely at home in it, as you can see from this picture. There's Fuzzy having a great time in her catio. Then the architect speaks up and says, I think this is a terrible idea. Catios are intrusive and will ruin the look of our city. Here's an example I saw when I visited Dino Dome last week. We don't want this kind of ugly building in beautiful Dinopolis. So the architect has an entirely different opinion. Then the museum director speaks up. In the olden days, I remember stepping down to the corner lot to play pickup basketball. It was a warm, casual atmosphere. I think we ought to keep things simple and ensure that everyone is welcome in our city. Now, what's wrong with that remark?
It's nothing to do. It's off topic.
Exactly. It's nothing to do with catios. And so the chair says reluctantly, in the chair's view, this heartwarming reminiscence is not relevant to the motion under discussion namely the motion to allow catios. Members will kindly keep their remarks strictly to the topic under discussion. This is not easy to do. The public may feel that you, as chair, are being mean to a kindly elderly person who deserves more respect. But even so, it's the chair's duty to guide the conversation and keep it relevant. And members can also help by keeping their own remarks relevant. It really is a great time saver. When it seems that discussion has finished, the chair asks, is there any further discussion, or are you ready to vote? And then if no one speaks up, takes the vote. Your vote must be by roll call, and the chair must announce the result of the vote. The ayes have it, the motion passes, and residents will be authorized to build catios in their private yards. See, there's three parts. The ayes have it, the motion passes, and what happens next? Or the noes have it, the motion fails, and we will not implement this proposal. A tie vote fails if there are equal numbers in favor and against. The motion fails. The chair states the fact and then moves on to the next item of business. The chair may break a tie, except the mayor may break a tie, except in passage of ordinances, grant or revocation of franchise or license, or any resolution for the payment of money. So that's from the state RCW, that restriction on the mayor's power of veto. There's no debate during voting. Somebody said, I vote reluctantly and I want that included in the minutes. No, no, no. Members are not allowed to explain their vote during the vote, and even a point of order must wait until the result of the vote is announced. Now, a member may change their vote up until the time the chair announces the result. After that time, it takes unanimous consent of the body, everyone agreeing, for the member to change their vote. And according to Robert's rules, once the chair has moved on to the next item of business, it's too late to change a vote. Under Robert's rules, to abstain is to do nothing. Abstentions are not counted, and the chair does not call for abstentions. But if you're a public body, likely you will call for abstentions. If you have a conflict of interest, you should recuse yourself from the vote. Recusal is a special form of abstention, but talk to your attorney before the meeting. Don't spring it at the meeting itself. And I just want to mention unanimous consent, which is a kind of fast track. The chair asks, is there any objection? And if no one objects, then goes ahead. Or, so is there any objection to the amendment to add annually to the end of the motion? Long pause. Hearing none, the motion is adopted. Is there any objection to taking a 10-minute recess? Long pause. Hearing none, the council will be in recess until 8:15. So this phrase, without objection, or if there's no objection, is very, very handy. Now, what about amendments? You amend a motion to improve it, unless you're the US Congress, but we're not going to go there. And the amendment applies to the main motion. The amendment must be germane, another jargon word meaning relevant, and anyone may move to amend, even the person who made the motion. So I move that we amend the motion by adding the words, provided that the plan for each catio is approved by the Design Review Board. So if it's adopted, it will read, residents will be authorized to build catios in their private yards, provided that the plan for each catio is approved by the Design Review Board. So there are 4 different ways to amend: add or insert words, strike out words, and insert words in their place, and substitute. So I'm not going to go through all of these for the sake of time, but you can read them in your handout. So the amendment is processed using the same 8 steps that we just saw for a main motion. And the challenge is, I know you know this, but we vote on amendments before we vote on the main motion. Seems kind of funny. We haven't even decided, and here we're already changing it. But the idea is to make the main motion as good as possible, to perfect the main motion. So the amendment blocks the main motion. Once the amendment has been made and seconded and stated by the chair, we discuss and debate it. And if we like it and we pass it, it becomes a part of the main motion. We then have an amended main motion. Or if we don't like it, if we think it's a bad idea and we defeat it, it goes away and we go back to the main motion as it was. People sometimes get confused and don't realize that after voting on the amendment, the process continues. Once the fate of the amendment has been decided, debate continues on the main motion. Now, your rules do not allow an amendment to an amendment, so that simplifies life. According to Robert, amendments must be germane. They must be related to the main motion. So you could have a motion to commend Anne McFarland for her fabulous presentation, and you could amend it to say, to censure Anne McFarland for her terrible presentation. It's relevant because Anne McFarland is the subject. And some bodies put in a rule that no amendment will be allowed, which changes the intent of the original motion, because you can play fast and loose if you're not careful. And according to Robert, amendments and their details do not go into the minutes. You just use that wonderful phrase, after discussion and amendment, the following motion was adopted. And once you've dealt with one amendment, you may have others, provided that they apply to a different aspect of the main motion. Like you could have one to start it in 2027. It takes special actions, reconsideration, to go back and change something we've already amended. And the process then continues, and after all amendments have been dealt with, the body still must vote. I'll have to nuzzle him up there. Still must vote on the amended main motion. Oops, sorry about that. Now, do you ever have friendly amendments? Well, often they're handled the wrong way. Somebody says to me, I offer a friendly amendment, and the chair turns to the maker to ask if they'll accept it. That's completely wrong. Once a motion has been made and seconded and stated by the chair, it belongs to the group as a whole. So you just handle it like any ordinary amendment. Or you could use unanimous consent. Is there any objection to adopting this amendment? Now, what about call the question? So call the question is a motion, it's a request to stop debate and vote now. It requires a second. It cannot be debated or amended, and it takes a 2/3 vote to pass. So if it passes, debate stops immediately, and the chair calls the vote on the pending motion. So this is not calling for a vote. You don't need to call for a vote, but it does mean that if it passes, you will immediately stop. So you saw it in the script where somebody objected, and so then they had to take a vote, and they took it by 2/3 because it's hard to count just 2/3 by voice. So any questions on motions and amendments? Yes.
I have two. That's under Councilmember Packard's comment ideology. I have two comments. And so the first one, changing your vote when we say it requires unanimous consent, is that just under that motion? For example, if say something passes, someone changes their mind, could you then make another motion and go through with just a simple majority versus a unanimous?
So there are motions, if the body has adopted a motion, there are motions you can make later, which we're not covering for limitations of time, such as reconsider or
Okay.
amend something previously adopted. What I'm speaking about here is you personally, that once the vote has been taken, you have that opportunity to change it before the chair announces the result or after with the unanimous consent of the body. But once the chair goes on, that's it.
Okay, that motion is settled.
Yeah.
Got it. And then the other one here is when we're talking about amendments, and this is something I struggle with in my own mind. It seems like when we talk about motions and amendments, we're talking about the text of a document. We can strike things, add things.
Yep.
If I have a proposed ordinance, let's say, and I know I want to change it right away, do I have to wait for the motion to pass it to amend the document, or can I outright motion to make an amendment before the text as written is considered?
Well, if you have a draft ordinance and somebody moves and seconds it, then you start discussion on the ordinance, and during the discussion, you may propose amendments.
But I can't, before that, I can't say I move to amend ordinance blah, 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 and make that kind of a
No,
first.
we really don't recommend that. When
Okay.
I've seen people do that, it really gets you in trouble.
Okay.
Start with the ordinance you've got and then propose amendments.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. So I'm actually, strangely, usually never do, but I'm running a little bit behind. So we're just going to take a 5-minute break. You can run to the restroom if you like. And then during that time, I misread that clock. I thought it was 6:30. Okay, good. We're better. So we'll take a 8-minute break. But during that time, I want all you participants to pick a role or two that you're willing to play during the practice. So these are all different roles, and I'm just going to pass them out, and you can share them with your neighbor, and you can trade. If you don't like the one that you've got, it's perfectly fine. So pick one or two roles that you're willing to play.
So many options.
Yes, there. plus. So what are we going to do with it? Members may make motions and we will debate and amend them. Now, just to remind, these are the 8 steps, right? Member makes motion, other member seconds, chair states it, members debate and or amend it. Chair restates motion and calls for the vote, members vote. Chair states results of the vote, whether the motion passes or fails, what happens next, and we'd go on to the next item of business. Now, this is completely different from what we were doing before. We're not reading a script. It's all free form. You have your sheets and you can say anything. You can make the motion that's on that sheet of paper, or you can make another motion if you like. And you'll need to be prepared to improvise as far as proposing amendments or debating, because somebody else might make a motion and your amendment that's on that sheet might not apply. So you have to say something else. So I'm going to ask everybody to seek recognition by raising your hand. And first thing, tell us which role you're playing. Tell us who you are, okay? And the last thing to know is you have permission to behave badly. Okay. So I was trying to actually turn this off here. We don't need the screen right now. Well, who wants to see us? But yes.
Make the motion now, or you asking if I?
I'm just going to call the meeting back to order. Please, eliminate your blank. Okay, we have another little soup. Let's do our best. So we will. Okay. Madam Artist, it's been moved and seconded that we create 15 life-size replicas of our most important species of dinosaur. Do you care to speak to your motion?
I have a comment that if Granger and Rapid City, South Dakota can do it, why can't we?
Thank you. Further discussion on this motion? Yes,
I feel
tell us who you are.
my name, I'm a festival director.
Yes,
And I feel like that is money that could be spent better elsewhere. I think just building statues doesn't make a lot of sense. I think we want to do something that brings more revenue to our city. And I don't think big dinosaurs will do that.
thank you. Further discussion? Yes.
Mayor, I think that's a stupid.
Who are you? Who are you?
I'm the spa manager, and I think that's a stupid idea. And I think that when we live with a lake in the middle of our lake, city, we have mineral muds. And I
Point of
want
order.
there to be something. Excuse me?
Enemy of the mayor.
The spa manager has the floor.
I think that we could really benefit from the muds in our lake to give stress relief and treatment to all the employees in recognition of the stress of their jobs.
So the mayor, the chair, the mayor will move that will say that these comments are not relevant, but the member may simply say, I urge people to vote this down. And if it's defeated, I will propose that we do something with our muds. That's one way you can express your opposition.
Okay, I
Yes?
just wanted to be oppositional.
Yes, enemy of the mayor?
Oh, yeah. My point of order was that that was a rude remark.
Well, saying that the proposal is stupid is okay. You just can't say the person is stupid. Further discussion? Further discussion, yes.
I'm wondering if you have a location in mind where we're.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a baker.
You're the baker?
Yes.
So address
and-
the question to me.
Oh, my question is there a location proposed where we would put these dinosaur statues?
The chair will ask the artist if she can answer that question.
We will do a public survey to find out where our citizens want these statues.
Thank you. Yes, tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm a bungee jumper and I want to know if the statues are going to be tall enough to jump off of.
The chair believes that 15 feet were described and that would not suffice. Would not be sufficient. Any further discussion? Are you ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion to create 15, I think actually life-size was the phrase, life-size replicas of dinosaurs, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no.
No.
The noes have it and the motion fails. And we're now ready for a new motion. So who would like to?
Chair?
Yes, Mr. Enemy.
I'm enemy of the mayor and I make a motion, I move that we retain a consultant to examine the source of this surplus.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
So it's been moved and seconded that we retain a consultant to examine the source of the surplus. Do you care to speak to your motion?
It seems suspicious that we have such a large surplus. Where did this money come from? How did it all this, this was poor planning or was something not spent that was supposed to be spent? We need to figure this out.
Thank you. Further discussion? Yes,
I am the opera fan. I'm the opera fan.
yes.
I believe that was the ARPA COVID recovery money, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe the mayor can clarify right here.
Yes, I think that's right, actually. Thank you, Madam Opera Fan. So obviously, we don't need this motion. Let's go on to the next item of business.
Point of order.
State your point.
We have a motion on the floor, Madam Chair.
Don't I have the right to say if it's totally irrelevant?
You may not dispose of a motion without a vote.
Let me just check with the attorney. Ugh. Yes, that's correct, Mr. Enemy. The chair apologizes. So we're back to discussion of the motion. Further discussion. Nothing else? Nobody wants to say anything? I have to say that, after the years that I have spent as mayor of this fine city and the wonderful and dedicated citizenry that have worked together to retain this surplus, I think it's just really a slap in the face for somebody to make a motion like this. And it's just what I would expect of the enemy because he's been working against me from the moment that I was elected. And I can't believe that you're just—
Point of order.
State your point.
I think your comments are not germane to the motion.
I call the question.
And you need a mud mat to eliminate your stress.
So the point of order is well taken, but you're better off to say the comments, not your comments,
The comments.
The point of order is well taken. The question has been called. Are there any objections if we take the vote right now?
I just have a question, but
Yes.
I don't know if I'm following a script.
Speak into the mic, please.
I'm supposed to be a movie fan, but that's regardless. So wouldn't it be, why would we spend money on a contractor to find out who's doing this when we can just have staff figure out where all this money came from? So why we have the money spent from the city?
So the chair will say that that's a perfectly fine question, but since the question has been called, we have to dispose of that motion to call the question here before we address the realities of the motion.
Okay.
So the chair would suggest that if the member wants to explain his point of view, he should vote against the call for the question to allow for further debate. So the question has been called. Sorry, folks. Is there a second? Is there a second to the call for the question? All those in favor of calling the question and ending debate right now, please raise your right hand. Hands down. All those opposed? There are not 2/3 in favor. So we will not call the question. Sorry. I have a little sinus infection and it's giving me trouble. No, I've got plenty of water. Thank you, dear. Thank you. Yep. Sorry. It's not infectious. Okay, so we're back now and the movie fan will speak to his comment. Speak into the mic, please.
So you're asking that we go outside and have somebody contracted to find out where this money came from, correct?
Well, I'm not asking. The member made a motion proposing that. Yes.
And my question is why can't staff do that and not spend the money to go outside to do that?
So the chair will take your question and address it to the enemy. Mr. Enemy, what is your reasoning that needs an outside consultant?
Well, there might be a conflict of interest. The mayor might have, there's been something fishy going on. So the mayor who controls the mayor who controls the staff may try to hide the source of this extra income or obfuscate it.
Be careful there. Be careful in your language. You can say, there may be some question about yeah. You don't want to make implicit accusations or hints at accusations, but you can say that you're concerned for transparency. Any further debate? Yes,
I was going to make a motion to amend.
very good.
I move that we amend the motion to have the staff examine the source of the, of the surplus.
Thank you. And you are
I'm the dentist.
you're the dentist. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded that we amend the motion by striking the words outside consultant and inserting the words staff. Do you care to speak to your motion, Mr. Dentist?
I do not.
Thank you. Further debate? Debate on the amendment? Yes.
Could we get clarification as to which staff, which department?
Is gonna do
The
the
mayor,
review.
we do have an audit department within the city, so I think that would be the logical people to handle it. Yes.
Does this mean that we would have to pause all allocations of this $10 million until we find out what the source is?
There was nothing like that in the motion. Further debate? Are you ready to vote? All those in favor of the amendment to strike the words outside consultant and insert the word staff, please say aye.
I.
All those opposed, please say no.
No.
The chair is in doubt as to the result of the vote, so we'll take the vote again. Now, when you do that, when you take the vote again by a different method, how you voted the first time doesn't count. And if somebody has slipped you $20, you can, oops, no, I didn't say that. So all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Hands down. All those opposed? Thank you. Hands down. There are 7 in favor and 3 opposed, so the motion passes. And, oops, sorry, the amendment is now a part of the main motion. Is there further debate? Further debate on the motion to have the staff research the source of the surplus?
Yeah, I
Yes.
would like to make a motion to suspend all spending of that money until the question has been resolved.
So that's an acceptable amendment. And the chair will ask if there's a second.
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded to add the words and suspend all spending from the surplus until the investigation has been concluded. Do you care to speak to it?
I do not.
Okay, further debate? Further discussion? Are you ready to vote? All those in favor of adding the words and suspend all spending from the surplus until the investigation has been concluded, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no.
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 The noes have it, and the motion fails.
Point of order.
So if you doubt the way the chair called a result, there's one useful term you can say. You can say division, just division, and immediately the chair must take the vote by a different method. This goes back to the Houses of Parliament, where they sometimes vote by going into separate rooms, by dividing into separate rooms. Though it's not in your handout. So did I hear a division?
Division.
Oh, a division has been called for. Very well. We'll take the vote again. So we're going to take this as a rising vote. All those in favor of the amendment to add the words and have the staff investigate the source of the surplus, please stand. Thank you. Please be seated. All those opposed, please stand.
I still want web masks.
Okay, thank you. Be seated. Well, the chair is surprised to note that the motion passes. The ayes have it, the motion passes. And she apologizes for getting carried away. It's just because she's a sensitive sort. So we now have an amended main motion. It's had 2 amendments. Is there any further discussion on this motion as amended? So we'll take the vote. All those in favor of the motion to have the staff research the source of the surplus and suspend all spending from the funds until the investigation is completed, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no.
No.
The ayes have it, the motion passes, and we will take the appropriate next steps. So thank you all. If we had a whole day, we could do more of this. It's one of my favorite parts of the training, but I hope it's given you a little sense of how it all goes.
So you put the whole thing as one package at the end then?
Yep, yep. Once the amendments have been adopted, it's a main motion as amended.
And just a quick question on that. You were saying earlier, it's critical that the entire motion and amendments are restated prior to the vote. It's
Right.
not, you can't just say propose as amended,
No, you have to say it.
the whole thing.
And I was trying to model that. It's also very useful for the chair when an amendment is proposed to say, if it passes, the motion will read. And it's not essential, but that's a useful thing to do. And it gives everybody a sense of what they're dealing with, because people get confused pretty easily. You'd be surprised.
We've missed that in
Okay.
planning commission. I will confess that we have missed that in planning commission, that repeating of the same
Mhm.
wording over and
Mhm.
over again.
Yeah,
But you've mentioned before in this meeting that we can go to staff who is hopefully keeping notes on
Mhm.
this to read back, correct?
yep, absolutely.
Okay, okay.
Good. Okay, well, thanks. Thanks for being such great participants. And you can keep those playing sheets if you like, or we'll collect them at the end.
On a mud bags.
Okay. My dinosaurs. I love them dearly. All right, so let's go back to our presentation.
You'll have plenty of opportunities.
Coming up there.
Trying to work out, trying to go back to the beginning, so let's see.
Okay. So we're at section 5. Who's in charge? The numbering is actually a little different from what you all have, because I don't put all the visuals into your handout, just to save the paper. We were doing this exercise last week and we had the motion to make 15 replicas, and then the chocolate maker moved to have them all made in chocolate. It passed.
So sorry. Restart. Okay, here we go. Get it?
Slideshow, there we go. Okay, so, oh, that's the beginning. We'll get there.
We are going to get there, yes. Sorry about this, Anne.
That's all right. Section 5. There we go.
Okay, now,
Now slideshow from current slide.
there it goes. I'll clear the error there.
Bravo. Who's in charge? All right. So in all of this, I'm referring to Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, 12th edition. This is what it looks like. And I hope that I'm going to pass it around so you can take a look at it. Please don't reveal my innermost secrets to my fellow parliamentarians, but I think this is a terrible book. Robert originally was a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. In fact, one of his first assignments was on San Juan Island when he built a ditch that was going to protect us from the British in 1859. And when he published his first book in 1879, it was a pocket manual. It would fit in your pocket. And it took off all across the nation. People were thrilled to have a common understanding of how to run meetings. But I believe that his heirs have done that very common human thing of improving something until you wreck it. You know, they kept on adding and adding and adding. And when I first got started, I didn't want to go there at all. But my good late husband said to me, he said, Ann, if you want to teach people about meetings, you've got to learn this stuff. So I kept on, and I realized eventually that the book, difficult as it is, has a core that we really need. It has a core that's essential for good and fair meetings. And that's what I've been doing for the last 25 years, is trying to extract that core and make it accessible for people. And as I say, you can get them a spiral bound. And the Roberts Rules people themselves have finally broken down, and they have published in brief, Roberts Rules in brief. This is a good book. You can read it in a weekend, although nobody wants to, but it will give you the key information that you need. So if you're willing to plunge into the sacred texts, I suggest starting with the Roberts Rules in brief. Now, I want to mention that there's an order of priority of authorities. So at the top, we have the US Constitution, then we have federal law, then state law, then your charter, articles of incorporation, or code, whatever it is that gives you the right to exist, then your bylaws or your council rules, your special rules of order, and Robert's Rules of Order. You see that it comes at the bottom. It's the bottom, it's the foundation on which you build the house that you're going to live in. And the house is made up of the specific rules that you adopt. And your rules have higher authority than Robert's Rules of Order. They must follow state law. And your council, your commission and committee rules are subject to approval by the council. You don't have the independent right to create them. So I want to distinguish between two types of organizations. One is shaped like a triangle or a pyramid. It's called an accountability hierarchy. And at the top, you've got the boss who recruits people to do the work of the organization, tells them how to do it, and if they do it badly, fires them. Now, an organization like this also has rank. It has people who are near the boss are higher in status, higher in rank than people who are down below. I think that's okay. I think we need the rank in order to get the accountability. You know, if we all in this room had the job of building an addition to City Hall and we all had the same rank, we would never succeed. You have to know where the buck stops. You hope that people of a higher status will use it intelligently and listen to the people down below, which they have a tendency not to do, but it's necessary. And to my mind, it's perfectly fine to have it. Now, this is a very common structure. Every corporation has a CEO. Every army has a general. Every school has a principal. It's so common that we tend to think of it as the default or ordinary structure. But there's a whole nother kind called a voluntary association. And you, on the city council, in your planning commission, in your salary commission, in your parks board, you are members of a voluntary association where a group of people come together to achieve a common purpose. They set up some guidelines for themselves and they select a leader, but the leader is a peer. The leader is an equal with the same status as everybody else and some special responsibilities. So in a voluntary association, each member has an equal right to speak and to try to persuade others to accept their view. The chair controls the process during meetings so the group can make the decisions. And the chair is the servant of the group, and the group is the final authority. So that's the most important thing I'm going to say today. Can I hear it, please? During meetings, the chair is the servant of the group, and the group is the final authority. And if you chairs, if you all internalize that and act on it, it will make a big difference to the effectiveness of your meetings. And so you have both types of structure. The council, the commission, the board forms a voluntary association, and the mayor and staff form an accountability hierarchy. So they're quite different in their nature. What is each person's individual authority? When you walk out on the street after the council meeting is over, what authority do you have? Yes, Angie's got it. You have none, zero, zip, nada. And I love this quote from another authority, which I think expresses it very well. All members of a governing board share in a joint and collective authority, which exists and can be exercised only when the group is in session. So that phrase, joint and collective, that's the nature of your authority. And I think it's just critical for all of you, whether newly elected or longtime members, to have that commitment that you will work within the joint and collective authority. So legislation is the prerogative of the council. The mayor supports council but does not decide. Administration is a prerogative of the mayor, and the council may not interfere. So your duty as a council member is to debate and determine overall strategy, policy, and legislation for your city, leave the details of operations to the mayor and staff, and follow the excellent guidelines in section 9 of your guidelines of your rules when communicating with staff. I was really impressed. I thought they were very, very clear and valuable. So this is our paper, Successful Staff Interaction at Local Government Meetings, which again, I'll be sending to you after the session. That's my hometown of Shoreline in the picture. So discussion on council motions can and should be vigorous. Express your views freely and don't hold back. But once the vote has been taken, things change. It's okay to disagree. The fact that people have different opinions is actually a strength. It's a good thing. But we tend to identify with our own position, and when we're defeated, sometimes we take it personally. And that's a mistake because, as a basic democratic principle, that the decision of the majority voting at a properly called meeting is a decision of the body as a whole. The minority must make it their decision as well. Now, this is a terrible system. It would be much better if you just put me in charge. I could make excellent decisions. But I hold with Winston Churchill, who famously said, democracy is the worst system of government in all the world, with the exception of those others that have been tried from time to time. So you have 3 duties as a council member, 3 fiduciary duties that we're going to quickly run through. You may have heard of these. They apply to you, and they also apply if you're serving on the Red Cross board or the Rotary or any nonprofit organizations. The duty of care, the duty of loyalty, and the duty of obedience. So a council member has the duty of exercising the diligence a reasonable person would use in carrying out his or her duties. Sorry about that cough. Maybe you could read it here. Nathan, can you read me the next one?
Yeah, a council member has the duty of further the interest of the city as established by majority rule and may not take action to undermine or harm its moral stance or business interests.
Next one. Mike, could you give us the next one?
Council member has the duty of obeying the agreed upon rules and guidelines established by the city.
Sonia? Sabina, can you read the next one?
Council member may propose changes, but is bound by the rules until they are changed.
Mayor Brett?
When you oppose the decision, up until the vote, discussion is vigorous, varied. Once that vote is taken, it's a whole different ballgame. After everyone's voice is heard, including the minority, it is the majority that make the decision.
And I will continue with council members have a duty. When serving on a public body, members have a duty to uphold the decision of that body, even if they disagree with it.
Disagreement. Members may express their disagreement in public, but may not attempt to undermine the decision. They're free to try to persuade their colleagues during the meeting to change the decision within limits.
First Amendment, when a person is elected to public office, they give up some of their First Amendment rights for a higher purpose. This principle has been confirmed in our courts.
So we're going to send you this paper, Lost the Vote, Don't Sabotage the Council's Action, with some examples of real life sabotage, of which I have several hair-raising ones to share with you. Now, what happens, when somebody does something that's really ghastly? You can sanction them. The council may sanction, and if you've adopted Robert's Rules of Order, you have that power. And so there are various things you can do, and we'll send you this paper sanctioning rogue board members. You hope you never have to go there, but occasionally there can be somebody who's really, really problematic. Now, what is the alternative? I love this quote from Elias Canetti. The ballot box is sacred because the alternative is blood. And all across the world, we see societies where decisions are made by blood and iron and not by the democratic process. We have many flaws in our society. We have many failings, and we're working to improve them. But I think it's practically a miracle that all of you in your councils and commissions and committees, and all of you staff are serving the citizens of Lake Stevens and the residents of Lake Stevens, not because you have a private army or because the governor likes you, but because you care, because of your dedication. It's a marvelous thing. It's the reason I've had so much joy in 25 years of working with Jurassic Parliament, because I think in a very quiet, unspoken way, you are really upholding the democratic principles of our founders. You're the inheritors of their vision and of their commitment, and I honor you for it. I feel that sometimes residents don't recognize or acknowledge how hard you work and how much effort it takes to keep the city going. So thank you. Thank you very much for your service. That's my public service announcement for the day. But I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. All right, so now let's take a look at public comment. So another disclaimer, Robert's Rules has very little on public comment, so this is based on my experience. You probably are pretty clear on this, but a public hearing is an administrative procedure governed by state law and your council rules. It's a meeting of the public, and you must include testimony or a summary in the minutes, whereas the public comment period is an agenda item governed by your own rules. Sorry, I'm hopeless. I'm going to go back to asking you to help me out. Could you read us the next slide?
Sure. Quasi judicial hearings. Note that when the council holds a public hearing that is a quasi judicial hearing, when you are acting as a bank of judges, you must not have ex parte communications. You may not discuss the matter with your neighbor or interested parties. Legislative hearings are quite different, fine to discuss.
The next one.
Why public comment? A council meeting is not a meeting of the public. It is a meeting of the council that is held in public. The purpose of the public comment period is to allow the council members to become informed about the views of the public. It should be carefully structured. It must not become a discussion or inquiry into the matters that are raised.
Be consistent. Best to announce rules at the beginning of each session and provide written handouts. For the sake of fairness, rules for public comment must be enforced consistently. Public must address remarks to the chair, not to individual council members or the audience. Do not ask for addresses. Many cities ask if the speaker is a resident of the city.
Follow time limits, schedule the time for public comments, ask staff to time speakers so chair is not distracted. Some bodies have a visible timer so speakers know when their time limit is approaching. Speakers may not donate their time to someone else.
Which is in your rules, by the way. I was happy to see it.
Do not dialogue. If chair starts dialoguing with the public, the situation can quickly become confusing. If you respond to some speakers but not others, it can be interpreted as showing bias. Do not address questions to the staff during public comment. Of course, you may make a request for the future.
In some cities, a public comment person says, I've got potholes on 75th Avenue, and they call up the public works director. Don't do that. It's not a good thing to do.
Audience relations, only the chair may speak to the audience as a whole. Individual council members may not speak to the public or recognize people in the audience. Discourage demonstrations, clapping, booing, whistling, stamping of feet, etc. These can chill free speech both for council members and public.
Time, place, and manner. The courts have found that local governments may limit the time, place, and manner of public comment. All such restrictions must be viewpoint neutral. We recommend setting a time period for public comment, for example, 30 minutes. We recommend setting a 3-minute limit for individual speakers or 5 minutes for a group representative.
If a speaker runs over the limit, and interrupt and request that they conclude their remarks or simply inform them, your time is up.
Comment versus disruption. Attendees do not have the right to disrupt the meeting. However, the courts have found that mere words do not usually constitute disruption. Rules limiting public comment are allowed, for example, time limits and relevance to agenda, but must respect First Amendment protections. You can have rules prohibiting campaigning.
First Amendment concern. In our view, the language of your public comment, public meeting guidelines is overly broad. If enforced, it could subject the city to a First Amendment challenge.
So that's the language. It says name calling or personal harassment or attacks, derogatory comments to personalities, any speech actions that disrupt or impede the orderly conduct of the public meeting. Well, the courts have said that people can say what they want and that a disruption means that the meeting can't go on, So if somebody's saying nasty stuff, that's not a disruption according to the recent court rulings. So maybe you don't enforce this, but it's something that I think you might like to check with your attorney about, because if you were to do it, oftentimes when cities are hauled into the court for the First Amendment, the city loses. The courts are pretty strict about it. So just something to think about. Yes.
We don't dialogue during citizens' comments, but it's not uncommon to thank someone for coming forward. Is that?
That's fine.
Okay?
That's essential. No, you definitely want to do that. Now, I'll try it again. If things become unruly, the mayor can call a recess or move the meeting to another location, but be very careful about having anyone removed from a meeting. There was a case in a city in Denver a few years ago where somebody dropped his pants at the podium. And the way it was handled, he ended up bringing a First Amendment challenge and got a payment of $15,000 from the city. So you can be surprised at how bad things can go. And if a riot breaks out, the mayor may adjourn the meeting. That's allowed.
You go.
Okay, so how do you act on the dais? The chair and the members convey, and thank you so much for reading for me. We may yet be reduced to that. The chair and the members convey interest and concern by their body language. They should listen to each person speaking as if there were no one else in the room, which is hard to do. You want to keep a warm and pleasant expression or a neutral face if the speaker is not complimentary. And don't whisper to each other, pass notes, or check cell phones on the dais. The best approach is to thank each speaker, unless extremely negative, and move on. The chair may provide brief factual information, if appropriate, which must not degenerate into lecturing or criticism. And when highly offensive comments are made, the chair may make a brief statement reaffirming the council's commitment to positive principles. So I have some good language from the city of Kirkland about that. And if that's an issue with you, I'd be happy to share it with you, where you don't have to completely just sit there and take it. If people are saying stuff, that's really beyond the pale, you can say our community and our council believes in fairness for all. And we do not accept these kind of comments. That's well within your power. Don't criticize staff. Council members must not criticize the staff in public. Instead, speak to the city administrator in private, because it's an unequal power relationship. And as discussed, council members may not cross that line. We think it's very important at the end of the public comment to thank the public for coming And explain again that while this is not the time for dialogue, all comments are taken very seriously. Sincerity and warmth on the part of the chair will make a big difference to how the public feels, the experience they have at your meeting. And you know this, it's essential for you to be in touch with your public, to be responsive, and to appear responsive. So given the limitations of the public comment period, we recommend other channels for dialogue, community forums, your personal discussions, coffee with council members or commission members, always less than a quorum, a form on your website, surveys, you know, the sky's the limit, and also staff time as to what you can do. But you do want to be sure to be keeping in touch with your public. So these are what we consider best practices. Set time limits for public comment and for individual speeches. Have the public address the chair and have the chair respond. Don't engage in dialogue with the public, but have arrangements to answer their questions afterwards. Speakers may not donate their time. And on the dais, be and make the effort to be listening intently to all speakers. Yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
Can you grab the mic for me?
Yeah. I think that brings, I think the longest meeting we've had was our Costco debate, I think. And so you're telling me that it would be okay that we say, hey, we know that there's 100 people in the room. We're going to limit what appears to be the Costco discussion to 30 minutes. And that would be okay?
If the body agrees,
Okay.
you can't do it as mayor,
Mhm.
but you can say, I propose to council that we assign 30 minutes to the Costco discussion. We'll hear pro and con. You can ask people to identify themselves,
Mhm.
and then that will be it. And in Washington State, it's fine. I'm told that in the state of Michigan, you have to hear everybody who shows up, with the result that sometimes people get 30 seconds, you know. But it is okay. It is okay. You do not have to go into penal servitude because you were elected to public office.
Sure. Although.
So on that, when you say you can ask people to identify, you can say, hey, we want 20 minutes for those who are opposed and 20 minutes for those in favor. I mean, because if you just open up 30 minutes and you don't know until they get up there what their position is, then.
Yeah, you can structure any way you like, but it is common to say, to have two mics and say, you know, people who are in favor line up here, people who are opposed line up here. And usually it's alternating, but you could also say 20 in favor, 20 against. Now, if it's a public hearing, that's a different matter. You know, I'm not giving you advice about public hearings because your attorneys will help you with that, because that's creating a record. But for public comment, sure, you have that power, time, place, and manner. And I don't know if this is an issue for you, but don't get into discussion. Don't get into dialogue with the public. It's just a big mistake. People sometimes try it, you know, when they're new, they think, oh, I want to have a responsive, engaged council. And it just goes down the tube so quickly. And you can't really answer often the questions properly from the dais. And if you get into a back and forth, then you've hijacked the whole meeting. So I hope that's not an issue. Good. Yes.
Can you clarify, you just said something about a public hearing on record and that public comment is, did you say it's not?
There are two different things. And I did have a slide, but we went over it pretty darn quick. So let's take a look back here. So a public hearing is an administrative procedure to create a record on a matter, which, if need be, could be brought into court. And it's a meeting of the public, and you must include testimony or a summary in the record because you're creating a record for the body to make its decision. That's entirely different from public comment, which is when the public comes to your commission, committee, or council meeting to tell you what they think. Okay? Good. All right, so as we said, these are what we consider best practices. And I'm sending you this paper. Now, I'm sorry that there are 50 of them, 50 guidelines. But when I set off a couple of years to go to revise our initial paper on public comment, there were just so many things to say that we had to end up with that. So I'll be sending that and the staff will distribute it to you and you're perfectly free to share it. It also includes a sample announcement because you want to set a welcoming tone. You don't want people to be put off by a bureaucratic approach. Any other questions on public comment? So as you see, if people are saying you're lying, you can't answer them, except you can say, this commission does its best to serve the public and to conduct its deliberations fairly. In other words, you don't argue, but you can make a statement about how you conduct your business. All right, the right kind of control. So in order to carry all this off, everything that I'm telling you, you have to have three things. You have to have knowledge of how this system works, which you're getting by being here. Thank you so much. You have to have a majority on your council who are in favor of civility and in favor of this system. About 15 years ago, the city of Puyallup revoked its rules of civility. So if you do that, you're not going to be able to have the kind of meetings we're talking about. They put them back in later. And you have to have, as a chair, as an individual, the personal moxie, the energy, the drive to put it all into practice. This is not easy, what I'm telling you. It really takes a lot of effort. So the chair must control who speaks when. The chair serves as a benevolent dictator, enforcing the rules that the group has chosen. And individual members must seek recognition before speaking. If someone speaks up without being recognized, you stop them. If someone speaks out of turn, you interrupt them. If someone makes insulting remarks, you cut them off. That's your duty as the chair. And members have a duty to obey the chair's directions. If they disagree, they can't argue back. And what can they do? Yes, point of order or appeal. How should you control? I want you to forget about Northwest Nice. We are conflict averse here in the Pacific Northwest. We are very reluctant for making direct statements and confronting others when we disagree. But you can learn how to do this with confidence. And to me, the secret is to do two things at once. You have to be clear about what you think and what you're saying, and you have to keep connected emotionally, to the extent that you can, to the people in the meeting. So I can give you an example of not doing that. I worked with a board member once who had a habit of saying, I couldn't disagree with you more. No clarity about what she thought and no connection to me as the executive director. It was totally maddening. And one clue, which I'm not sure that I have this in, so one way to do that is to always say and. Always say and. You make a really good point there, and I'd like to also mention such and so. Because as soon as you say but, you cut off that connection with the other person. Now, we're all used to good grammar, and we have ideas about how we should speak, but you can do it. You can say something, and then you can say and. So you, as the chair, guide your members by stating the obvious. You as chair know more about the process than anybody else. You have to repeat yourself and state the obvious to bring everyone along. You're like Napoleon crossing the Alps. You're on that horse. Yes, that's exactly right. The mayor's got it there. So you want to keep things moving, be brisk, speak crisply, more crisply than you would in everyday life. I've heard these phrases. Well, I guess the agenda is adopted. Can you pass these out to people as I'm talking? Thank you. Well, I guess the agenda is adopted. I'll kind of get a thumbs up from the board next week. No. Don't say that. And here we've got my phrase about phrase things in the positive. I knew a mayor who would always say things like, we're not trying to hide anything here. What does that do? And immediately you get a picture of hiding something. My favorite example was a few years ago when the then prime minister in London was not appearing and somebody asked a question about where she was and her spokesperson said, the prime minister is not hiding under her desk. What a terrible thing to say. So when you phrase it in a positive way, then you can be more effective. No sarcasm, no eye rolling, no shoulder shrugging. Respect is essential, even if you're provoked. People will detect contempt immediately, and it will worsen the atmosphere. We believe in Jurassic Parliament that emotion is more important than procedure. Now, I don't mean that we're going to go all Oprah and bare our souls. I just mean being tuned in to your own feelings and the feelings of others in the room. If you lose people procedurally, you can make it up to them. But if you lose people emotionally, if they start to feel like you're being arbitrary, then you're going to be in trouble. So it's a balancing act. You want to radiate confidence, speak clearly and definitely, and at the same time, keep emotionally connected to the people present insofar as possible. We recommend a style that is firm but not harsh. Firm but not harsh. So I'm passing out these language tips for meeting management, and they, again, you're perfectly free to copy them and share them. So I suggest that you tape it to your bathroom mirror, and in the morning, when you're brushing your teeth, you can practice these sentences. They sound awful. They sound pretentious, and self-righteous and everything, but they're very effective. They're very powerful. And if you really get carried away, you can try them at your holiday dinner. The children will kindly pass the potatoes to the right. See how far you get with that. Finally, when in doubt, ask the group. Ask the group. This is such a wonderful thing. The chair believes that remarks about UFOs landing at our airfield are not germane and will ask the council to decide whether the council member may continue speaking on this topic. All those who believe the council member may continue speaking say aye. All those who believe the council member may not continue say no. The ayes have it and the council member may continue speaking, or the noes have it and the council member will cease from speaking. There's a phenomenon called white coat syndrome, that when the new doctor gets their white coat, they feel as if they have to know all the answers. And they don't, and you don't have to either. You can always turn to the group. And I've seen it have a very powerful effect, because the members then see that the chair really has their best interests at heart and is not trying to ram through an agenda. Robert also has this wonderful line: the chair should never get excited. So I always like to share this photo with us as an example of what we don't want to have happening at our meetings. This is not posed. This is a real photograph from some time ago. That council is doing much better now, I have to say. All right, so those happy words in conclusion. Why do we need rules? I love this quote from Richard Rohr. He says, "Win-lose is the only game most of us understand. We have a constant unspoken need for domination and actually find no enjoyment in win-win situations." Now, I'm sure that's not true of you. I'm sure that everybody in this room is on a higher spiritual level. But as for me, if I get in a fight, I want to win it. So if you feel yourself hardening into a combat position, you want to take a deep breath and back off and see if you can look for the win-win. So I want to invite you to subscribe to our monthly e-newsletter. I'm going to pass around this sign-up sheet here. If you like, if you're interested, you don't have to, believe me. So if you sign up, you'll get a monthly newsletter. We try to keep it short and interesting. We also send out occasional messages about our live Zoom workshops. And if those are of no interest, you can just write no marketing emails, or you can do it on your profile and we won't send them to you. I also have a blog, which is a separate thing, and you can subscribe to that on the website, where I go into more detail and also answer questions for Dear Dinosaur, my advice column. So I have a lot of fun with that. And if you ever have parliamentary questions, please feel free to write. I'm retiring from giving live presentations, but I still intend to keep the company going and answer questions and write columns and things like that. So that's our book. And we do offer it at a discount. So if the city wants to get it for you all, they can. So I said, after taking this training, you'll be able to describe how the authority of the group is more important than any single individual, even the chair, follow best practices for discussion, respond to disorder or difficult people, make motions and amendments, run effective public comment sessions, and make better decisions for your community. So I hope I've done that. I hope that you feel that this has been helpful to you all in your important work. These will be in the packet, follow 6 fundamental guidelines for successful meetings, and a 2-page quick guide for city councils. So why are we here? I said we were here to invigorate you to run effective meetings to serve your community. And I'd like to close with a wonderful quote from the British author Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson said, "Kindness is within our power, liking is not. You cannot make yourself like your colleagues on the council or commission or committee, but you can be kind to them, and you must be kind to them because serving on a local government board is like being in a marriage arranged by the citizens." So thank you so much for your time this evening. I hope that it's been helpful, and it's been a pleasure to work with you.
You and the mayor's coin.
Oh, thank you so much.
For all your dedicated services to making sure we have civil meetings and sometimes non-civil times.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mush.
Ann.
Yes. Yes.
So, the chair appears to have no power to make motions or to express their opinion because they're not really a speaker in any debate. And so how can a chair cause motions that they wish to initiate happen or to make their opinion known?
So that's a great question. Robert has different rules for small boards. A small board is up to about 12. So I'm not speaking here about the council because the mayor, as an elected mayor, is in a special position. But in your commissions and committees and so on, under Robert's rules, the chair may take part in debate, may make motions, and may vote. We recommend that the chair doesn't make motions because we think the tendency to defer to the chair is too strong. But the chair can say, would any member care to make a motion? Would any member care to take a motion? The chair can invite people to make motions. So is that helpful?
Yes, and I would suppose that if the body doesn't make a motion that the chair wishes to be done, then the chair can then grab that initiative and to make a motion.
Unless the rules say differently, under Robert's rules, the chair may.
Because in the planning commission, there is no designated, I mean, we vote for a new leader every year.
Right.
And it kind of rotates around. And so we're all like the chair is part of the body who votes. So I would hope that that's the way we can do things. I don't know what the rules are.
Well, what's the size of the commission?
Making a motion.
Oh, okay, all right.
What's the size of the commission?
7.
Yeah. So according to Robert, that's fine. Now, the mayor's in a different position. It's kind of an anomaly because technically speaking, the chair is not a member of the council. But according to custom in Washington state, the chair may speak. The chair may give opinions and should give opinions because sometimes the mayor knows things that it's important for the council to know. They had at one point in the city of Issaquah a few years ago, they had a very kind of antagonistic relationship and they didn't want to hear from their mayor. And that's a mistake. And they got over it. And she's now retiring full of honors. But I believe that an executive mayor, a quote, strong mayor, should be able to speak as long as they don't dominate the situation. We had in Edmonds, Linwood, just north of me, there was a mayor who was absolutely running everything with an iron hand and giving 20-minute speeches. And eventually the council voted that he should resign, which he didn't do. But, you want to avoid that kind of situation.
And I appreciate you confirming that I'm an anomaly.
It's true, you are. And a very splendid one. And so is the city. Thank you so much. Thank you.